my first guest today will have you remembering what you were doing in March of 2020. That's when the COVID shutdowns first happened. We all have a 2020 story, don't we? Well, here in the Quad Cities, people who think deep thoughts and write them down have put together a book entitled These Interesting Times, Surviving 2020 in the Quad Cities. Misty Urban is the editor who wrangled all the stories for the Midwest Writing Center, and then Sarah Stevens wrote a lovely essay in here called Eclipsed. And it's good to have you both here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
In 2022. Is it over yet?
Depends on who you ask.
How's it going so far? So Misty, when did you guys realize at Midwest Writing Center that it was time to write this stuff down here from our local writers?
You know, we weren't too far into the thing before we realized this was a historic moment. We were really living through something that was sort of an epochal upheaval. And we have a historian on the Midwest Writing Center board. Susan Collins has been involved for a long time, history teacher. And she said, we really should be making some sort of record of this. It's really unbelievable what we're going through. And I love to put books together, so my first thought was, let's have a bunch of writers talk about what they went through in 2020. Let's try to hear from as many people as we can. Let's put it into a book and share the book. Hopefully our stories will reach other people.
Some of it, so the stories, there are many. There are stories, they're essay style, some are poems, some are very funny, some are heartbreaking, some are a little of each. Right? And so I bet you were thrilled with the variety you got. And who are these people? Who are all these writers?
Well, we reached out to a lot of local writers, authors, poets, visual artists.
Look at all these names, you guys. I'm going to hold this up.
It's a great roster.
It's
a great lot of heavy hitters in there.
Yes, and some of these, so did you have to really slash some of their stories as the editor? You had to be merciless?
Well, we didn't take everything, no. And what we were looking for were really specific stories. Everybody could give the roster of the disasters that were happening on a national or international scale, but we wanted those personal peaks. So we selected pieces based on what they revealed about someone's inner life. And then for the most part, my editing was pretty light-handed. For the most part.
She was very gentle.
Yeah, see, so Sarah, your inner life is
my
amazing.
inner life.
Did you get asked to do this, or had you already been writing your account?
No, I had a friend who is always nudging me to write more on a public platform. So she had forwarded me the application. She's like, you should write for this. I'd written a little bit about drawing an analogy with the idea of eclipsing.
Yes, light and dark.
Light and dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you know the light because of the dark. So I wanted to write from that perspective.
So this is your essay. It covers a few different pages. You call it Eclipsed. This is one of my favorite parts of it. Here we go. I don't know how to stop wishing that light could be light without so much darkness. But I also know that light is light because of the darkness. And so I'm grateful to have lived through a year that taught my eyes to adjust.
I love that you loved that part. That's not what I would have picked.
See, before the show, I said, I'm gonna read my favorite part to you. And she went, uh-oh. So did you pick a different part, Sarah?
It was more entertaining than that, but I love that you went to the heart of what I was trying to say.
That's the heart of it. Light is light because of the darkness. So are we better because of that year? That now has changed so many things about life in America and in the world?
I think it depends on what you do with what you know on the other side. Better or worse sort of depends. I think when it comes to suffering in general, it does depend on what we do with it. So I think that there was suffering on every level for so many people, for most people. But it depends on if we let ourselves see the light on the other side.
You got to do it. If you don't, and that goes for anything in life that happens to you.
Yeah.
Right, personally, and when we look at the world, what do we hope happens from this book, Misty? You want people to read it, obviously, but to what end? What do you want people to get from it?
You know, we kept referring to this in discussions as the disaster anthology, and then we thought that's a terrible marketing scheme because no one's going
read
to
about
want
the disaster.
Let's read about the
to buy
bad
a
times.
disaster anthology when they're living in a disaster. So we were looking for the tales of discovery, of resilience, of triumph, or just the ones that threw out a lifeline for how to make it through something like this.
I do think that this can be a survival story for a guide to survival. I mean, you have cute little things here too, like this illustration of the derecho of 2020. Don't worry, the storm is just blowing through. It's just you know, that's what most storms are. They just blow through and then they're done, right? Are they done? But they leave behind something, don't they? Do you think most of us learned the correct lessons for us through this? It's hard. That's a
Paula,
big
that's an
question.
entire show.
That's an entire yeah.
That's another book.
That's more than one show. But that's something that I think we should all look at.
Yes.
Even if you don't write.
Yes. I think if we're not paying attention to our lives in both the moments of joy and the moments of suffering, for me, there just isn't much of a point then, right?
It's
to be
true.
able to stay in it and present to it, process it, and then maybe share it with other people in a way that's useful to them. What else is there?
One of my justifications for putting together the book was that we are so isolated by this. We're all sort of forced apart. We're fragmented into these different interior worlds, and we can't see what's going on inside of other people's worlds. So I wanted this anthology to bring that together so people could read it and feel less alone.
These interesting times, Surviving 2020 in the Quad Cities, a project of the Midwest Writing Center. Those folks do so much. I mean, really, you guys, I wish we could feature you more often because you bring together great minds who have creative, insightful thoughts. So we appreciate all of you for what you do. This book is available. Where can we get it?
You can get it at the Midwest Writing Center in the Rock Island Public Library. There are copies for sale at Dead Poets Espresso, at Exotic Imports, at the Rock Island Historical Society, at Artsy Bookworm, at Book Rack, and soon the Pearl Butt Museum in Muscatine, and at any public library.
Well, all the cool spots at the QCA.
That's right.
For sure. And the proceeds go to the disaster recovery in the Quad Cities, that fund that is still going strong. So, yeah. Thank you, ladies. Good seeing
Thanks,
you.
Paula.
Thank you
Sarah and Misty.
for letting us talk about the book.
Nice job.